This video is brought to you with the support of the following lamp sponsors.
Next to movie studios in the United States, the National Screen Service, referred to as NSS, had the most direct and profound impact on the movie paper advertising industry. From 1940 until the mid-1980s, NSS was the control center for almost 90% of the movie paper distributed. In essence, NSS turned the movie paper advertising materials into an industry all their own. But movie paper was not the initial purpose of NSS. Here's their story. As early as 1912, movie exhibitors were experimenting with ways of announcing coming attractions or programs to their theater audience. For example, in 1912, at Rye Beach, New York, the series Adventures of Kathleen was shown. At the end of the reel, Kathleen was thrown into the lion's den. After this scene, a title text card appeared stating, "Does she escape the lion's pit? See next week's thrilling chapter." In 1914, Nils Granlund, the advertising manager for the Marcus Loew theater chain, produced a short promotional film for the musical The Pleasure Seekers, opening at the Winter Garden Theater on Broadway. Since these adverts appeared at the end of the programming, they were referred to as trailers, a term still used in today's cinema marketing. By 1916, some movie studios began preparing and releasing their own trailers. Here's an announcement from Triangle Films in October of that year. But these early trailers were done as individual projects for specific films and not a service that could be used by all theaters. In October of 1919, Screencraft Pictures executives Joseph Pollock and Akibo Weinberg formed the National Screen Service Corporation with the intent to offer a novelty trailer service to the exhibitors of the country. Their plans were announced in Wids Daily, dated Thursday, January 8, 1920. Their announcement read,
"The National Screen Service will, beginning February 1st, offer a novelty trailer service to the exhibitors of the country. National holds exclusive contracts with leading producers such as First National, Paramount, Selznick, Hallmark, Goldwyn, United and Universal, whereby these companies are to supply material of future releases far enough in advance to prepare the trailers."
Under the direction of General Manager Louis Rogers, by the end of 1921, NSS had amassed a large library of trailers as well as personnel to maintain it. In January of 1922, Herman Robbins, former general sales manager of Fox Film Corporation, became general manager of domestic sales. Robbins, who would eventually become president of the company, quickly became the face of the NSS. By 1923, NSS provided trailers for all feature productions. Film exchanges who had been providing trailers for many feature pictures for free discontinued the service, advising the exhibitor to buy from NSS. By the mid-1920s, NSS had offices in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. In September of 1926, National Screen opened an office in London. The introduction of sound films solidified NSS's dominance. In July of 1928, NSS announced that sound trailers were on the way. This increased demand on NSS created a tremendous control issue. To address this expansion problem, NSS created a simple number control system for trailers that would have major impact on the accessory industry for the next 60 years. Sound gave a much-needed boost to the film industry. But as studios expanded their distribution, it also expanded their overhead. Since most films at that time stayed on the market for 2 to 3 years, studio exchanges, whose major business was releasing new films, struggled to maintain older films. They were forced to continually re-release the films to bring in additional revenue to help cover the costs. As early as 1912, film exhibitors were obtaining licensed movie posters and accessories from independent poster services and exchanges. The growth of the film industry after sound also greatly affected the handling of film accessories. While independent exchanges attempted to control more of the accessories market, some studios fought back by requiring exhibitors to return the materials directly to the studios, thus preventing resale to the poster companies. This movement resulted in 30 independent poster exchanges located throughout the U.S. forming the National Poster Service Association, Incorporated, in order to combat this policy. Soon independent companies, such as Leader Press, began creating and supplying alternative versions for the theaters with completely different artwork. They even boasted that they were providing posters for 25 to 50% below studio prices. In March of 1936, National Screen Service broke into the theater display field through a deal consummated with American Display Corporation. To handle the distribution of the American Display products, NSS formed National Screen Accessories, Inc., a new wholly owned subsidiary. In 1937, NSS was approached by Lowe's to print and distribute their specialty items, which consisted of larger sizes such as 3 sheets, 40 by 60s, and banners. The test worked well, and NSS began supplying theaters with these specialty accessories for films produced or distributed by United Artists, Lowe's, and Columbia. Again, the NSS would face creation, distribution, and warehouse problems, since, at that time, they only had 6 regional outlets and a very small art department. By 1939, distribution problems for the studios had multiplied. Warehousing overhead for national distribution, rising labor costs, rising legal battles, plus the realization that the United States was headed for war, became more than studios could bear. Studios were losing huge amounts of money with their accessories. In late 1939, Paramount approached NSS to take over their entire accessories distribution, but only under the condition that NSS would open branches in all major markets where Paramount had an exchange. As part of the agreement, Paramount would provide all the artwork to NSS. On December 22, 1939, NSS entered a 5-year exclusive contract with Paramount through their newly formed subsidiary, Advertising Accessories, Inc. RKO, which had also suffered losses from its accessories business, was approached by NSS to take over the manufacture and distribution of their movie paper. On January 31, 1940, RKO entered an exclusive 5-year contract with Advertising Accessories. Universal would enter a similar arrangement on February 1, 1940. Columbia soon became the 4th company to join Paramount, RKO, and Universal in the new accessories setup, centralizing distribution of all accessories through Advertising Accessories. To meet their new contractual obligations, NSS approached the National Poster Service Association, the largest and most reputable poster exchange association in the country at that time. On February 17, 1940, in a brilliant maneuver, NSS bought the 21 largest poster exchanges in the association, plus an additional 7 poster exchanges in the other cities needed. This move immediately gave NSS 28 independent poster exchanges, with management and staff already in place. In addition, each poster exchange had hundreds of thousands of posters already in stock and set up in major cities across the country. These new exchanges were located in California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Washington. On September 26, 1940, Warner Brothers signed a 1-year non-exclusive license agreement for distribution of accessories on Warner Brothers. First National Products. This agreement was extended by a letter agreement for successive yearly periods up to and including August 31, 1945. In 1946, NSS took over the exclusive distribution of Warner's press books and all standard advertising accessories. On July 18, 1941, National Screen Service Corporation announced that National Screen Accessories, Inc. and Advertising Accessories, Inc. merged into National Screen Service Corporation. In 1941, NSS began negotiating a manufacturing and distributing contract with Lowe's Metro. By this time, Lowe's too was losing money on their accessories. On February 6, 1942, Lowe's and NSS entered a 10-year exclusive contract. Under this contract, Lowe's agreed to furnish to NSS the completed artwork and still negatives from which the mats would be prepared. Timing could not have been better for NSS. As the U.S. involvement in World War II became larger, manpower rapidly became a major problem for the studios, almost forcing them to NSS. Over the next few years, the remainder of the major studios at the time signed contracts giving exclusive rights to NSS to manufacture and distribute their accessories. By 1947, every major film studio in the United States had signed exclusive contracts with NSS. The move to exclusive contracts with the studios immediately set off a barrage of lawsuits by the independent poster exchanges. The first lawsuit, Lawler vs. NSS, was filed in 1942 and set off a chain of lawsuits that lasted until 1960. In 1943, NSS tried to ease the situation by creating sub-licensing agreements for a 3-year period that was later extended for another 5 years, ending April 30, 1951. While this appeased some, other exchanges continued filing lawsuits trying to break exclusivity. After the war, NSS continued to grow and streamline their operation. By the mid-1950s, NSS had outgrown its distribution system and made another brilliant move. In 1957, NSS bought Continental Litho in Cleveland. This eliminated the need to send out the artwork to lithographers to do the physical layout and printing. The year 1960 saw many changes for NSS. First, they made a transition to regional printing and warehousing to help eliminate huge amounts of shipping costs. Plates were made in Cleveland and shipped to the regional print shops where the posters were printed and stored for regional distribution. This move eliminated most of the business for Morgan Litho, who was at the time the largest supplier for the film industry. This shift in business ultimately caused Morgan to close in 1960. This restructuring and distribution of trailers and accessories settled NSS with 18 regional offices. The year 1960 also saw the last of the barrage of lawsuits that had persisted since 1940 over the independent poster exchanges, ruled in favor of NSS, giving them dominance in the industry. In August of 1960, Herman Robbins stepped down as president, remaining chairman of the board. His son, Burton Robbins, was elevated from vice president to president of NSS. The acquisition of new IBM computers in 1962 allowed NSS to produce their first computerized inventory list. This changed how everything was handled, and in 1964 all the changes were presented at a national sales meeting. Their new slogan, "The New NSS," was unveiled as a major theme. The 1950s and 1960s were a time of complete dominance for NSS. However, two major changes in the industry were starting to take hold. These would ultimately lead to the decline of NSS. Canada was the first country in the world to have a two-screen theater. In 1957, Elgin Theatre in Ottawa, Ontario became the first venue to offer two film programs on different screens when Canadian theatre owner Nat Taylor converted the dual-screen theatre into one capable of showing two different movies simultaneously. Taylor is credited by Canadian sources as the inventor of the multiplex or Cineplex. He later founded the Cineplex Odeon Corporation, opening the 18-screen Toronto Eaton Centre Cineplex, the world's largest at the time, in Toronto, Ontario. In the United States, Stanley Durwood of American Multi-Cinema is credited as pioneering the multiplex in 1963 after realizing that he could operate several attached auditoriums with the same staff needed for one through careful management of the start times for each movie. Ward Parkway Center in Kansas City, Missouri had the first multiplex cinema in the United States. Andrew Kuhn trained at NSS from 1961 to 1963, writing and producing trailers. With his distinctive knack for promotion, Kuhn became recognized for his creativity in promoting foreign and difficult campaigns. In 1963, MGM hired Kuhn to head their new promotional department to handle trailers and TV spots. Kuhn revolutionized the style and approach of trailers. In 1967, Kuhn left MGM to form his own company, Kaleidoscope Films. Kaleidoscope soon began handling all the blockbuster films, such as Airport, Poseidon Adventure, Sting, Exorcist, Towering Inferno, Jaws, Taxi Driver, Superman. This changed the direction of trailers forever and broke the dominance of NSS. These two changes in the industry had a direct impact on the NSS. The growing popularity of multi-screen theaters drastically reduced the need for advertising accessories because a single lobby now had to advertise all the different films being shown. Regardless of this decrease in demand, NSS was contractually obligated to continue producing and stocking all sizes and types of accessories. The creativity and sharp editing of the Kaleidoscope trailers became the benchmark for the industry, slowly replacing the demand for NSS trailers. By the late 1970s, NSS had to continually decrease overhead and start closing regional warehouses. They restructured their operations as a cost-saving measure. In 1977, NSS introduced a new computer program that combined trailer, poster, and accessory material into a single computerized program. In 1984, NSS eventually relinquished the exclusive manufacture of accessories back to the studios and became a distributor. This had a major impact on the posters and accessories being produced, resulting in the elimination of many of the standard accessory sizes. NSS remained a printer and distributor on a non-exclusive basis for about 15 years. Over the next few years, NSS turned full circle and reduced their distribution centers to 3 again, just like in the 1920s. In 2000, Technicolor bought out NSS and closed it down. From 1920 until 2000, National Screen Service was a major contributor to the success and growth of the film industry. Their records are basically a blueprint of the history and evolution of the entire American film industry. When NSS took control of movie posters in 1940 and eliminated the independent film poster exchanges, it caused literally millions of movie posters to become available to movie fans and poster collectors. A few independent poster exchanges sold directly to the public. During the scaled-down and closing of NSS warehouses in the early 1980s to 1999, millions of posters again became available. The movie poster hobby basically owes its existence to National Screen Service.
Thank you for watching this Learn About Movie Posters presentation. For more information, visit learnaboutmovieposters.com.